Hello, I'm Antonio Mora. This is the newsandnews.com Day in Brief. Today's top stories in 4 minutes. It's Tuesday, January 8th at about 7 p.m. On a day filled with unforced errors, President Trump will address the nation from the Oval Office for the first time tonight. He's expected to make his case for a wall on the southern border, but not declare a national emergency, at least not yet. His speech will be followed by a Democratic rebuttal delivered jointly by Senator Schumer and Speaker Pelosi. If Trump hopes to gain supporters in his battle for a border wall amid what would be the longest government shutdown ever by the end of this week, he may want to stick to the facts, control his hyperbole, and give the full context. Some of Trump's claims, intended to inflame passions about a national security crisis, are instead opening the door for his critics. Too much of the administration's focus has been on claiming that an unsecured border leaves the door open for terrorists to enter the country, saying 3,700 individuals on the terrorist watch list have been apprehended. What they don't point out is that only 12 were at the southern border. Trump and his surrogates also highlight how 17,000 people with criminal backgrounds were encountered there, not telling you that the enormous majority were for nonviolent crimes, including crossing the border. They also focus on 3,000 special interest individuals, people from countries such as Iraq, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, who came through Mexico. Here, they don't bother to tell you that few had any known connection to terrorism. And while border apprehensions have ticked up recently, they are still way under the recent historical average. So exaggerating those numbers will also not help. If Trump were to tell the facts straight, he might get some converts. Most Americans don't want anyone crossing the border illegally, especially people with any kind of criminal record or who might be connected with terrorism in any way. I don't expect much tonight from either side. They'll stick to the same tired tales they've been telling, spinning them and not telling you the whole story. Trump is slated to meet with congressional leaders on Wednesday as the shutdown is increasingly affecting all sorts of Americans, not just federal workers. But some of those are suing, arguing that it violates the Fair Labor Standards Act by forcing some federal employees to work without pay. I don't know how the courts will rule, but even if they decide national security is more important, you can only expect people to work without pay for so long, even if there's little doubt that they'll get paid retroactively. The confusion over Trump's declaration that the U.S. is pulling troops out of Syria is increasingly a mess. Turkish President Erdogan snubbed National Security Advisor John Bolton, who is visiting Turkey, after Bolton said he was going to warn Erdogan about attacking Kurds. And Secretary of State Pompeo is heading to the Middle East to reassure allies that the U.S. will remain a force in the region. In another unforced error, the Trump administration downgraded the diplomatic status of the ambassador of the European Union to the U.S. The demotion of the EU delegation is from member state to international organization. The administration didn't even bother to let them know. The EU is described as being furious. Hard to blame them. Why in the world the administration continues to offend some of America's closest allies is beyond me. Paul Manafort's lawyers had their own unforced errors, badly redacting a court filing, and in doing so, accidentally revealing at least one reason Special Counsel Mueller has accused Manafort of lying and breaking his plea deal. And in fact, the filing admits to inconsistencies in Manafort's testimony, specifically that as Trump's campaign chair, he shared polling data related to the 2016 campaign with an associate who is believed to have ties to Russian intelligence. Manafort's lawyers insist their client provided complete and truthful information and that he made no intentional misstatements. The Russian lawyer involved in the infamous Trump Tower meeting, which is believed to be a focus of the Mueller probe, is facing obstruction of justice charges in a separate case for allegedly submitting an intentionally misleading declaration. That declaration is said to have been drafted with a senior Russian prosecutor, even though she has denied contacts with the Kremlin. New York State is battling its worst outbreak of measles in decades, mostly among Orthodox Jewish children in various communities in different parts of the state. People who choose not to vaccinate their children are not only ignoring science, they are putting you, me, and our kids at risk if we're among those for whom immunity has waned. Private schools that don't enforce vaccine laws should be ashamed of themselves. In our alternate universes segment, the great divide between conservative and liberal media is about as wide as the Mexican border today. On the conservative side, it's mostly about giving voice to supporters of a border wall who insist there is a humanitarian and national security crisis at the border, and who highlight how barriers at borders do decrease illegal crossings. On the liberal side, good luck finding pro-wall voices. Instead, the focus is on pointing out the multiple misstatements and exaggerations coming out of the Trump camp. They are all preaching to their respective choirs, as I am sure will be the case tonight for both Trump and Pelosi Schumer. We have all those stories and much more updated around the clock 7 days a week on newsandnews.com, where you'll find all you need to know in one place. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the right of your screen just below this video. Please follow us on Facebook at Real News and News, and follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at @AMoraTV. I'll see you again tomorrow.